Speaker, I also want to thank Senator Cherargei for passionately seconding the second reading of this bill. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Cherargei actually gave live examples, and we all remember what happened in Solai Dam. Many people felt that justice was not carried, and yet the committee of this House had made certain directions. There was previous, before the passing of this bill, no responsible officer, nobody to push, nobody was facing any consequences for not following what the Senate committee had resolved. The Honorable Cherargei, Mr. Speaker, spoke about what they had resolved as Senate on the question of the Talai, which continues to hound us to date. And he says when he goes to his constituency, they are asking him, what happened? He says we passed, but there is no action as the people had said. With the passing of this bill, Mr. Speaker, this is going to be a thing of the past. I want to thank Senator Wamatinga. When he was contributing, Mr. Speaker, he made it clear that we need a 360-degree reporting mechanism so that when we come here and we debate on issues, we are not debating for the sake of debate. We are not here a house of talk. Mr. Speaker, we are passing resolutions that are going to be binding, and government officers are going to take us seriously. Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the Honorable Amatinga's observations and his support. I thank the Honorable Senator Wafula. Mr. Speaker, he stated that in this country, not just Kenya, but in Africa, people have a problem with following rules and regulations. And it is important for us to put consequences. Mr. Speaker, it was not lost to me that this bill, in the second reading, there has been a proposal that we make the consequences of failure to comply with resolutions even more stricter than what we have proposed in this bill. Mr. Speaker, we have proposed 500,000 as a punishment. In the alternative, we have proposed a 6 months jail term for those responsible officers who will not have obeyed the resolutions of this House or given them effect. Mr. Speaker, it has been proposed in this House that we should go as far as 3 years. We should go as far as 3 million. Because they say a cabinet secretary, a CS, if you charge them with, find them guilty and say it is 500,000, it was stated here in the second reading debate that is change, a small change for them, and they may not take it as seriously. Those observations, Mr. Speaker, I will take them, and Mr. Speaker, during the third reading, we shall make appropriate amendments that I believe will have the support of the House. I want to thank the Honorable Senator Mandago. Mr. Speaker, in his contributions, he made a very important contribution on this floor. And he said that in his previous service, people used to bring very important resolutions in the county assembly where he was had the chance to serve as chief executive. And these resolutions, as governor, they are taken to marked to the relevant departments, and yet those departments do not affect the resolutions of the people, the county assembly members who have been elected to pass a resolution to reflect what the people are saying on the ground. Mr. Speaker, he has said that we find a way in which this bill can also have effect in the county assembly. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful for that suggestion, and Mr. Speaker, we will find a way in the third reading to bring appropriate amendments that if the JLAC committee sees them proper, we shall process them, Mr. Speaker, on third reading to see how we can capture whether we can make it also effective throughout the Republic in all county assemblies, so that the resolutions of those members of the county assembly, Mr. Speaker, can be taken seriously. Because, Mr. Speaker, we have bad experiences. We have governors who don't even really respect our MCS, and when they make resolutions, when they talk the language of the people, these governors, they tend to hide and try to find a way to get away from the resolutions of the county assemblies. Mr. Speaker, we have had resolutions in county assemblies where a county assembly sits down and decides to pass a resolution to remove a county executive committee member. And then that member is supposed to be sacked, but instead, if he was serving in health, he's taken to public service. The governor decides he's not going to sack that member for whatever reason. He removes him or her from the docket that is currently serving and takes them to another place, therefore defeating the purpose for which the county assembly has taken time to express the opinion of the county at the assembly, of the people of that county. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for this proposal, and we shall surely find a way in which we can bring it in the third stage, the third reading, to see how we will be able to bring that decision, that thought it captured within the law. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say, as I finish in making my response, that, Mr. Speaker, this is not a small matter. It's going to affect all of us, and I am grateful for what my colleagues have said. And I know some members of the National Assembly are also listening and following into this. I take the comments by the Honorable Senator Cherargei that they should also support, when it comes to their side, concurrence, so that we don't have an issue, because this affects all of us. This is something that needs to be looked as a parliament issue, as an issue that affects all of us, and it is creating space for us as a parliament. Mr. Speaker, it is also not lost to me that the people of Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, they have had a problem. Those who are down at the area of the Delta, those who are down where the river Tana meets the sea. Mr. Speaker, they have had a problem because we have had upstream developments that have continuously reduced the volume that goes down to the river. Mr. Speaker, I brought a motion here, and the House agreed with me because they saw the suffering of the people at the Delta. And Mr. Speaker, that motion is so critical because what has happened is even areas like Matomba area, the river, because of reduced power, it has cut away. It has now turned to go into other areas. And then whole villages, people, 10,000 households, Mr. Speaker, the river has turned away because upstream, the developments have affected the strength and the power. And we pay twice. When it's the dry season, the river moves away. So people have a serious water problem. When it's rainy season, they release the water upstream, and it comes and it destroys us downstream. Mr. Speaker, that motion is so critical to our people. And yet, when the clerk has written to these people in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation, Mr. Speaker, they have not really come back to the committee of in charge of water, land, resources to tell them, this is what we are doing. This is what we are doing. We are telling all our officers that no approval of any project shall be done without consultation and doing proper assessment, impact assessment, both social impact assessment economic assessment, and even environmental assessment, not just in the areas where they're trying to dam or do something like that, but also downstream. What is the social impact, socio-economic impact assessment? And even for those that have taken place, what is the current situation? Mr. Speaker, you will find that as of this time, the ministry just received the letter from the clerk and they kept quiet. So, Mr. Speaker, we will then be forced on a situation that if it develops, that new upstream activities start and we are not told, what we will need to do is go to court. Why? Because this law was not in place at the time that we passed that motion. But Mr. Speaker, just like when the Honorable Cherargei was saying, Solai Dam, it was not possible to do anything at that point other than make resolutions. So, Mr. Speaker, with this law, we are saying for prosperity, for posterity, when things like this are passed in this House, responsible officers, we don't just say Ministry of Water, the way the letter has been written, the Ministry of Water, the Department of whatever irrigation, you need to do this and that, but there's no responsible officer being named. In this bill, going forward, all resolutions of this House, Mr. Speaker, there will be a requirement on the clerk now to identify the responsible officer, direct him to do what is required by that motion and the resolution of that House. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that we have had this general consensus. It's been bipartisan, and those who understand what we are doing today, Mr. Speaker, they will be here, I pray, during the third reading and make their contribution. Mr. Speaker, I beg that the bill be moved to read a second reading. But, Mr. Speaker, I have an application to make that pursuant to Standing Order 66, Sub-Rule 3, I request that you defer the putting of the question to a later date, possibly, Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, because the resolution of this House is required. For the more than at least something like 2/3 of the delegations are required. So, Mr. Speaker, I would request that you accede to that humble request we are making, and I thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator Mungatana. Indeed, you have made your application, and under Standing Order 66.3, the chair has got the discretion on application by a member to defer division to a future date, and even as I make the determination that the matter affect counties and that voting will be by delegation, we will defer the division until the next sitting of this House, that is in Tuesday, when we shall put the question and we shall take the vote. Next order.
Order number 11, the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2022, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I'm the mover of that bill, and I would request the Honorable Mr. Speaker to push it for Tuesday. I underestimated the strength that and the energy that I was going to require for us to move it. So, Mr. Speaker, I request that it be deferred to Tuesday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is also noted, Senator Mungatana. We shall defer that particular bill until next sitting of the House, that is Tuesday next week. Honorable Mungatana, the next order again is still your bill, and we do not want to presume that you will also be making a similar application, but if you are, let the chair know about it so that we are appropriately advised.
Mr. Speaker, I will also be making the similar application, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Mugatana, your application is equally noted. The next, I'm noting that Senator Oruoba is not in the House. Next order.
Order number 13, motion, provision of free sanitary towels to end period poverty.
Senator Roba is not in the House, and we shall defer this motion to the next sitting. Next order. What's your point of order, Senator from Kiambu?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising to seek your indulgence and guidance on the motion that has just been mentioned about ending period poverty in this country. Mr. Speaker, I remember how that motion started. There was drama in this Senate. There was a bit of activism that emanated from that so that we can push that motion. Mr. Speaker, this is, I think, the fourth time that motion is being deferred. I seek your guidance what should be done, Mr. Speaker, because we don't want to take this House for granted, that you can use this Senate for your own advancement, Mr. Speaker, but when it comes to dealing with real issues, real matters, such as this motion, the move of the motion is nowhere to be seen, Mr. Speaker. We have been taken into circles when that activism happened in this Senate, Mr. Speaker. I would like to urge this House that whenever you bring a motion, see to it that it has been discussed in this House and use the right channels, Mr. Speaker, because I have been here wanting to comment and contribute on the motion. Every time I come here, Mr. Speaker, because I want the period poverty to be eradicated in this country. But every time I come here, the mover of the motion is nowhere to be seen. How long are we going to defer this motion? Yet our girls are in problems at schools, Mr. Speaker. When are we going to discuss this important issue? I seek your guidance. If probably the owner or the mover of this motion is not willing to move it, I'm willing, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Karungwa Thangwa, it is noted, of course, remember we previously had a discussion on motions which are placed before the order paper and the movers are unavailable in the House. Part of a resolution made was to defer not to the immediate next sitting, because they will definitely take the place of other order papers which ought to be placed in the order paper, but we push it further. But in this particular case where you are saying you really would want to do it, I would love that we encourage the mover so that if it's placed in the next order paper, it be debated. But for the instance now, In her absence, we are going to defer it to the next sitting, and appropriate advisory will be given to the mover of the motion. Can we move to the next order?
Order number 14, motion, institution of measures to curb incessant high electricity costs in Kenya.
This is also a motion by the Honorable Senator Mohamed Chute. Are you ready to, Senator?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think we don't have much time now. I can defer it for the next session. Thank you.
This motion is also deferred to the next sitting of the House. Next order.
Order number 15, motion, enhancing highway safety and convenience.
The Honorable Omatinga was here, but he seems also to have stepped out. We shall also defer the motion to the next session. Next order. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 28th of February, 2023 at 2:30 p.m.
ya saba ya IBC, ndani ya saba ya IBC, na vile yeye ametoa ndio hata wataalamu wetu wamepata namna hiyo. Bwana Ruto alipata kura milioni 5.9. Naona vizuri. Baba na Martha walipata milioni 8.1. Hiyo ndio ukweli. Ukweli hayozi. 8 na 5 ipi mingi zaidi? 8 na 5 ipi mingi zaidi? Kwa mimi naweza kutembea na madaha bila kuangalia nyuma, maana najua nilishinda uchaguzi. Tumesema hatuwezi kuvumilia wizi ya kura kila mara. mambo ya wizi ya kura mpaka ifanye nini? Mpaka ifanye nini? Nauliza nyinyi abaguzi, mnasema wizi ya kura tumalize? Wizi ya kura. Kwa nasema nione kwa mkono. Tumesema wizi ya kura mpaka tumalize. Ndio sababu leo tumekuja hapa Gusii. Nataka ulimwengu yote angalie pale mko, runinga iko mpaka Amerika wanaangalia nyinyi. Hata kule Australia wanaangalia nyinyi. Na kule bara Ulaya wanaangalia nyinyi. Nataka muinue mkono tena ili ionekane kwa runinga ya kwamba nyinyi mnataka. Sasa wamesikia vizuri kabisa ya kwamba Kenya wamekataa. Kesho tutakwenda kule Kisumu. Dala. Naona. Tukitoka Kisumu siku ya Jumatano tutakuwa na maombi kule Nairobi, Jibanji Gardens. Jibanji Gardens. Sasa alafu wikendi ijao tutakuwa Mombasa. Mombasa. Tutaenda Kiambu. Tutarudi Nairobi. Tutarudi Nairobi. Tutapiga firimbi. Mko tayari? Mko tayari? Mko tayari? Hayo ndio yatakuwa. Hatuwezi kuwa na Kenya ambaye inatawaliwa na wezi, ambayo vile vile majambazi hawana heshima na uhuru ya Wakenya. Hii maneno itakoma, si itakoma? Si itakoma? Tuko vile vile hapa na vijana wanaita Movement for Defense of Democracy. Nataka mmoja yao kuja hapa.
Nataka nitambulishe jeshi ya baba kwa majina na mwajue, lakini kabla ya hiyo nataka tujiapishe. Mimi Victor Marende, jeshi ya baba, na hapa ya kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu chini ya amri jeshi mkuu baba Raila vijana kutoka Kisii. Tumekuwa Gusii na tumeongea na vijana kule Nyamira na wamesema wako njaa. Wako nini? Njaa. Wako nini? Njaa. Tumefika Kisii, tumeongea na vijana wa Kisii. Mmesema vipi? Njaa. Mmesema vipi? Njaa. Niko njaa hata siwezi karanga. Owe hae shagala bagala. Niko tayari kulipa sitasimama. Hizi ni nani? Muuaji ni nani? Jambazi ni nani? Na lazima atoke State House. Lazima atoke wapi? Lazima atoke wapi? Nataka nialike kijana barobaro anaitwa injinia kama baba, Injinia Evans Kimori. Kijana faya! Kijana oye! Mtiasi ya Maria Tankoro kwa Injinia Kimori Junior kwa Machanga Borabu constituency. Mko tayari kusimama na baba? Mko tayari kusimama na baba? tu kwa baba. Vijana wewe! Leo tumekuja kama vijana katika kikundi cha MDD. MDD inamaanisha Movement for Defense of Democracy. Wacha niwaulize, nataka niwaulize, mko tayari kusimama na baba? Wangapi wako tayari kusimama na baba? Ndio mkono. Asanteni sana, na ningependa kushukuru baba amesimama na vijana. Asante sana.
Nataka niite kijana mrefu zaidi. Urefu wake unafika hadi pale. Unafika hadi wapi? Hadi wapi? Alafu tunasikia msichana fulani anatusi baba. Atatusi nani? Atafanyiwa hiyo kitu. Fidel Castro. Wana Kisii. Mko sawa? Mimi niko na jambo fupi. We are all beneficiaries of God's grace. And in the eyes of God, there is no one who is more greater than anyone. Sawa? Hata tunawaambia wakiomba, sisi hapa ni vijana pia tulizaliwa na wanawake. Watu tuone kama sisi ni magaidi. We love this country more than they do. That's why we are here today. Sawa? Sawa. Na kama the story of the three lepers. Wangapi wanasoma Biblia? In the story, 2 Kings 7:3-20. Kulikuwa na watu watatu walikuwa na ukoma. Watu walikuwa wamewadharau. Wanasema wananuka. Lakini hao watu walisema tukikaa hapa tutakufa. Tukienda kwa Asiria watatuua. Wakafanya uamuzi, we will die while facing the Syrians. Wangapi wameamua we will die while facing the Syrians? Asanteni sana Kisii, wacha nikaribishe Dennis. Vijana Kisii bibi! Vijana ria! Maila pa! Simba ria! Mko tayari? Kwenda State House! Baba, tunakuambia kama vijana wa Kisii, maisha imetutosha. Maisha imekuwa na gharama kubwa. Mpaka vijana wengi tumeshinda kuwa baba. Tunakuambia leo hii hapa Kisii, tumechelewa, tunataka kuingia State House. Kwa sababu baba alishinda kura, sio? Tutasimama na Matiang'i. Tutasimama na Matiang'i. Nyonyesha mikono ya Fred Matiang'i. Nyonyesha mikono ya Fred Matiang'i. Nyonyesha mikono ya baba. Baba, tumesema kama wa Kisii ya kwamba raundi hii hakuna kubagua, ni kutembea na wewe mpaka State House, kwa sababu ulishinda kura, sio? Hapa kusimbia wewe. Asanteni sana. Haya. Vijana vya Kisii na Nyamira mjamore. Baba ameniuliza niongee kwa lugha ya